Today's event is taking place on the stolen land of Tohono O'odham, O'odham Jud, and Pasquayaqui Peoples Territory, colonized and now known as Tucson, Arizona. Connecting with this land and holding a moment of remembrance is one way WFSA practices decolonizing and unsettling the systems of colonialism that live around and within us. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Women's Foundation for the State of Arizona's virtual luncheon, Day 2. To kick off today's program, we join WFSA CEO, Dr. Amalia Luxardo, in studio.
Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for Day 2 of our 2022 virtual luncheon. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and staff, thank you for attending. As you learned yesterday, research is at the heart of everything we do and informs our legislative agenda. Today is about advocacy and our efforts to make systems change for women and girls in Arizona. WFSA strives to remove systemic barriers facing women and girls through policy change. We write, run, support, and enact legislation that creates an Arizona where women and girls of all identities can thrive. We work closely with our valued partners at Goodman Shorts Public Affairs on our advocacy and policy efforts. We are proud to have built a positive reputation and presence at the Capitol, and are known for our nonpartisan approach, being collaborative, research-based, and having a high level of reliability. WFSA has been advocating for women and girls at the Arizona State Capitol since 2014. Last year, our bill, HB 2016, was signed into law. This law allows DES child care recipients to maintain their benefits while enrolling in full-time education to expand their career opportunities. This legislative session, WFSA is running HB 2111, a bill supporting Healthy Families Arizona, which is a life-saving program aimed at not only reducing child abuse and neglect, but also increases economic self-sufficiency. Many of the program participants are single mothers who gain employment within 24 months and go on to complete additional education after the first year of their child's life. For those of you that were unable to join us yesterday, a quick recap of the news we covered. Late last year, the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona became the Women's Foundation for the State of Arizona. Our expansion allows us to provide similar and targeted philanthropic efforts, grant making, and program delivery across the state. Our research will continue to drive our work on a statewide scale, and our advocacy and policy work will continue to have statewide impact. While our geography has expanded and our brand has evolved, our commitment to gender equity remains. Yesterday, we had an incredibly moving interview with Stephanie Land, the author of Made, which, like many of you, brought me to tears. We had a presentation from the University of Washington Center for Women's Welfare, who has led our update to the self-sufficiency standard for Arizona, which is available on our website, womengiving.org. We encourage you to explore the new self-sufficiency standard tableau to understand the true income needs for families of all configurations and locations in Arizona. This afternoon, we are bringing together 3 women leaders whose careers in Arizona led them to serve on a national stage at the request of past and present U.S. presidents, to participate in a conversation about leadership, advocacy, and what's needed for women to thrive. We encourage you to stick around till the end of today's event, as we are raffling off a WFSA swag bag full of fun items including a WFSA water bottle, advocacy stickers, lens cloth, mints, pens, and an EOS lip balm. During today's session, we will cover some of the core tenets of the work of our foundation that supports our mission, where we innovate to create social, political, and economic change that achieves equity for women and girls. We do this through our integrated framework of research, advocacy, grant making, and leadership development. Before we get started, let's take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, TEP, for supporting this year's Women Thriving Luncheon series.
We all want clean energy to protect our environment. We also need reliable energy to power our modern, busy lives. TEP's plan for a cleaner, greener grid means we don't have to choose. We're making our energy as clean as we can, as fast as we can, without compromising safety, reliability, or affordability. By 2035, we'll be providing 70% of our power from renewable resources. We're already on the right track with new wind and solar projects that will more than double our community-scale clean energy capacity. We plan to reduce carbon emissions 80% by replacing our remaining coal-fired power plants with wind, solar, and storage systems.
Advocacy is one of the most important aspects of the work that we do. It allows the research presented during day 1 to stick. Advocacy engagement exists on a spectrum, from marches and rallies to individual meetings with elected officials, from requesting to speak at a public hearing to voting. Advocating for ourselves and our community looks different for everyone. For the 3 women we bring together today, advocacy has been their lifelong work, building careers of public service right here in Arizona. These women have been handpicked by presidents to serve in their administrations. Their experiences, expertise, and unwavering dedication to public service was not only recognized in Arizona, but throughout the country. Joining us for today's panel, the Honorable January Contreras, former designee for the White House Council for Women and Girls under President Obama. Contreras is also the former health policy advisor to Governor Janet Napolitano and former Ombudsman for Citizenship and Immigration Services at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The Honorable Deb Gullett, who currently serves as the Executive Director of the Arizona Association of Health Plans. Previously, Gullett served as an Arizona House of Representatives member, Special Assistant to President George H.W. Bush, and Chief of Staff to U.S. Senator McCain. The Honorable Charlene Fernandez, current USDA Rural Development State Director for Arizona. Fernandez is a former Arizona House of Representative member and former Western District Director for Congressman Ed Pastor. A warm welcome to these incredible leaders.
My name is January Contreras, and I've had the wonderful opportunity to serve in leadership positions in Arizona state government, the federal government, and running a nonprofit legal aid center.
My name is Deb Gullett, and I am the Executive Director of the Arizona Association of Health Plans.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlene Fernandez, and my title, I'm the Arizona State Director for the United States Department of Agriculture. Rural development, and it's a political appointee. I'm a political appointee appointed by the President of the United States.
What did you learn from your service in Arizona that helped you serve on a larger scale in your appointed position?
I think what I learned in both service under Governor Napolitano and running always a legal aid center is to really pay attention to who we're serving and learn from them and adapt how we deliver services as we learn from our clients and the people of Arizona. When we go in thinking we know exactly how to solve problems, when we know what people need, a lot of times what's more important is to take a step back and to listen to people. So I think from my perspective, what I learned in government services to stay focused on the people who are receiving the services we deliver, and to listen to them and to really pay attention to their experiences so that what we do makes a difference for them at the end of the day.
So thank you. That's a good question. Most people start out low and they work their way up. And I did it backwards. I got my start in Washington, D.C. And after 15 years in and around the highest levels of government, I moved to Arizona and ultimately tried my hand in state government and then city politics. And every single job I've had, and I've had lots of them, every one of them's revolved around communications, promoting people or ideas, advancing programs, working on legislation. And it really has been an instant gratification kind of career in that, when your plan is working, when the polls move, when your candidate gets elected, when your bill gets passed. And the opposite is also true. When your numbers start to tank, you're going in the wrong direction and need a new plan. So what have I learned? I've learned to make decisions and then move forward. I've learned to write out plans and then adjust them if I need to. I've also learned that there are many ways to get to success. At the state capitol, they say a bill isn't actually dead until the legislature adjourns because there's people like me down there trying to breathe life into them. And what else have I learned? I'll tell you. If you can write clearly and speak clearly, you can do just about anything. And that's as true at the White House as it is working with a neighborhood group. So let me give you my favorite quote from Dr. Seuss. If you can say what you mean and mean what you say, there are opportunities to make a difference and have a real impact everywhere you look.
What did I learn from my service here in Arizona to kind of lead me to where I am today? And I think it's those simple rules that you learn when you're young, that many of us learn maybe in kindergarten, but in my case, it was first, second, and third grade that carried me to this point where you listen to others, that you try to be kind, and that you know that people come from all walks of life with different situations as their background. I was very active in my community. Even as a young person, I was in student council, which really helped with the work I'm doing today, because you're working with your peers, but you're also working with other people, adults. And if you're lucky, you're working with people that are helping you grow into that position. And I think, I could attribute almost everything I did throughout my life to where I am today.
Why is it important that we have women's voices represented in political leadership?
It's vital to have women's voices in political leadership because politics leads to policy. That's where decisions are made about how budgets work, how programs are put together. And I think women are used to carrying a heavy load. We're used to caring for others. We're used to not having the privilege of turning our eyes away from people with needs around us. And I think those are qualities that make a very good leader. One of my favorite things, and it's unfortunate that it's happening, but I always feel a little bit of a chill when I see wonderful people, wonderful women being elected to office, and you walk down the hall and you see a man after a man after a man, and they all look very similar. And all of a sudden we've had our day and there's a woman at the end, and there's a pop of color, and there's someone who has a sparkle in their eye and is serving in a whole new way. And that needs to be the norm, not the exception anymore.
Look, I have been in government and in politics for 45 years, and nobody has ever said, let's see what the men think, because the men tell us repeatedly, women's voices are not as loud, women's voices are not as confident, but they need to be heard because, and you know this, we bring skills that improve every project and perspective that improves every conversation. And as much as we complain about the state of politics in Arizona and across the nation, until more confident women roll up their sleeves and step up to lead, well, we'll get what we've got.
Is it important to have women's voices at the table? It's important for leadership of tomorrow. I think women, their voices, what they have to say, it's a different perspective, right? We come to the table, we have a different perspective, and we open the door for other women to speak up. And I also know that when we have women at the table, not only do other women feel comfortable speaking up, we intentionally, as women, promote other women and allow those voices to speak up. I see it every day in my work and in the volunteer work I do when I'm speaking to large groups of women, even small groups of women. I see that they see themselves in me. And that leads them to a position of power later on. And that's not just young women. That's not just, girls, but young girls. I'm talking about 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that look at you and think, I could do that too.
What words of wisdom or encouragement would you give to women interested in pursuing roles in governmental leadership?
I think the wisdom that I would share for women moving into and seeking leadership roles in government is to, number one, don't underestimate yourself. And even if other people underestimate you, don't buy into it. And when those moments happen, what I would say is focus on your journey and the journey of your ancestors. I know for me, in moments when I'm tired or you feel like you're banging a head on the wall and say, I'm doing this work, is it making a difference? For me, when I think about my grandparents, when I think about their journeys, it just reminds me how far my own family has come. And how did a community play a role in that? And then what is my responsibility moving forward to honor their journey and to think of all those families out there who are on their own journeys? So I think remembering our history, remembering where we came from, remembering how much hard work and sacrifice and ganas has gone into getting us where we are. And then it's focused on how do we help other people get to their destination just like we are.
Here's my encouragement for you. Do it. Do it. It's scary. It's frustrating. It can be exhilarating. Sometimes all of that happens on the same day, but you can really have an impact. Look, I don't exactly have a shy personality, but I learned the hard way that the ability to mouth off is not the same as being able to make a cogent, compelling, and persuasive argument in 60 minutes. So here's my story. At the midpoint of my career, after I'd probably given 100 speeches and presentations, I joined Toastmasters. It's a club with chapters all over America that does one thing: teach people how to make speeches. And my husband was like, "Don't you know how to do that already?" Not well enough. So I went to breakfast with the Toastmasters once a week for a year, learning how to better express myself. And honestly, I loved every minute of it. So if you're going to put yourself out there, make sure that you have the skills to be successful. And that means doing your homework and practicing and making yourself a subject matter expert on the issues that are nearest to your heart.
What words of wisdom would I give women that are interested in pursuing a career, whether it be in political life or in federal employment, federal life? I'd just say go for it. For a lot of us, we don't see women in those positions. And I'm speaking from my perspective as I was growing up. So I felt that anyone that offered me any assistance, I never said no. I've learned, and people need to learn this, all people, but especially women, is that we want to see you succeed. So if I don't offer help, knock on that door and ask. Say, I saw you do this, and I know that I want to do this too, and I think you can help me. I'm always excited to lend a hand, and I know my peers are too. So just know that people want to see you succeed.
Yuma has a rich agricultural history that continues to this day. What does agricultural industry look like for women today? And what economic opportunities and challenges still exist for women within the industry?
What economic opportunities are offered to women in the agricultural field in Yuma County, where, actually, I got to tell you that the lettuce industry in Yuma County is $1 billion industry for the state of Arizona. So it is a rich, very rich economy with a very rich history. With a very rich history of men running the place. And so I got to tell you, just in the last few weeks, I read in the paper that a young woman here in Yuma County is taking over her father's agricultural business. That's exciting, to bring her perspective to the table, to hear her voice at the table. As we've all heard about the water issue throughout the state of Arizona, but it's very important here in Yuma County. We have some of the oldest water rights, and water is very important because of our rich history of agriculture. But you see more women going into the field of water. And when you might think, well, the field of water, I'm talking about water attorneys, learning about, the law, and about water and how important it is and how it's ever changing. I can think of 2 young women right now here in Yuma County that are leading the way. So I know that there are opportunities and there are doors being opened every day to hear the stories, of those farm workers that work the farms and work the harvest. And many of them are moms, young moms, older moms, grandmas, but there are stories about what they've done for their children, that their children have gone on to college to become lawyers and engineers and teachers. So there is a wide open field here in Yuma County, in the agricultural field for women. So there are still challenges for women in the agricultural field here in Yuma County. And I would say throughout Arizona, but the doors are opening slowly. And as I spoke before, when someone wants to help you, let them help you. And we see that. And as I talked before earlier about, the non-traditional jobs, attorneys, water attorneys, we see more women going into that field because people are encouraging these women to go into those fields. There's a class you can take at Arizona State University on water. And years past, it was filled with men. Today, you see more women because they are being encouraged. They are being told about this session that they can go to and learn more about water, become water experts. You don't always see them at the table, but it's becoming more and more common.
You have extensive experience working at both the state and federal level. As we advocate for women and girls in these different spaces, do you have any advice for our advocates? Are there any major differences we should be aware of or strategies we should employ to connect with or tailor our messages to these different audiences?
Well, I've got lots of experience being an advocate both at the state and the federal level. And my advice to you is this: the most successful advocates are those who can tell their stories efficiently, who are confident, who know how to bring humor or compassion to the conversation, and who know their facts. And that's true whether you're lobbying your senator in Washington, D.C., or if you're down at City Hall talking to the mayor. And elected officials, honestly, it is all about them. They're going to want to know of your connection to them, that you're a constituent, that you're acquainted with their work, and most important, that you've thought about how what you want fits in with their priorities and their agendas. You're not there to waste your time, so be yourself, be confident, come equipped with the facts, and use your time efficiently. And if you do all of those things, I'm sure you'll be successful.
We know that many cities and towns in Arizona feel that it is difficult to have their voices heard at the state capitol. When you served in the state legislature, what was your strategy for advocating for Yuma and making sure that those voices were heard?
You know, serving at the Arizona State Legislature for 7 years and then for 8 years at the Yuma Union High School governing board, you know, a lot of times voices aren't heard. People don't feel like their voices are heard. And you have to be intentional about bringing those stories back to Phoenix, back to the boardroom. And that's what I did. You have to talk to people. You have to listen to their stories. You have to want to listen to those stories. And when people know that you want to listen, they open up. That's the only way we can make changes at the Arizona State Legislature, at governing boards all over the state of Arizona. We bring people with their stories. I would talk about, you know, our issues with internet, you know, how it's really difficult in so many areas here in Yuma County to get quality internet, for our teachers to teach from home during a pandemic, for our students to learn from home. You know, issues about job opportunities. You have to listen to those stories about people that lost their job and can't find another one. One of the stories and the issues that I hear more often now as a USDA director of rural development is housing and lack of housing and the impact of losing your home. And we see these stories, hear these stories right now after the pandemic, you know, a single mom losing her home, her kids, you know, leaving college so they can help mom stay in the home. That impacts not only the current generation, but generations to come. For many of us, that's generational wealth when we own a home. Home ownership is the American dream. So those are stories I hear about inability to reach that American dream, inability to find affordable housing, inability to provide for your children. And those are the stories not only did I take back to the state legislature, but I take back to the leadership at USDA. They listen to those stories, and that's how we decide about appropriation of money, how much we're going to put toward housing, how much we're going to put toward water projects, how much we're going to put into community facilities that make lifestyle, you know, better for many of our rural communities. This is such an exciting job for me because I love telling those stories, listening to those stories, and carrying those stories back to people that can make a difference.
You've worked as a lobbyist and a legislator. What are the best and worst parts of these two roles?
Okay, so I have been a lobbyist and a legislator, and, you know, they both had good and bad. I loved the policymaking part of being a legislator. I argued for my bills. I'd cajole other people to see things my way. And I was the one who had the vote. It was mine alone. I didn't have a boss. It was just me. I'm the one who got to say yes or no to the bills we considered. And I loved that part of it. But the politics really did me in. There is just not a wide path to walk for a pro-choice, moderate, handgun restricting Republican. There wasn't then, and it's even worse now. My first lobbying client was for a good government project from the O'Connor House on behalf of the former Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. So I thought, if I have to go back to the Capitol after serving there, and I wasn't sure how it would go, she was a good one to go with. And it turns out that the policymaking part of lobbying was every bit as much fun for me as the legislating side of things. I've got great clients. My main job is to support health care for low-income Arizonans, a cause that I am totally passionate about. As a lobbyist, I guess I have to be nicer to everyone down at the Capitol than I did when I was an elected official. But, you know, on the other hand, I make like 10 times more money than they do, so it all works out.
What do you think are the biggest challenges facing women and girls right now?
There are a lot of challenges facing women and girls. I would say that we start with the challenges of economic mobility and stability, fair wages, recognizing that childcare is just a necessary part of making our economy work for everybody, and how those issues of economic stability, ability to put a roof over your kids' heads, ability to put food on their table, are related to everything else, including safety. In my work in particular, I've seen what happens in homes with the door closed. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of exploitation. There's a lot of harm that happens to women and girls. And I have sat at a table in courtrooms with many women who wanted desperately to get out of abusive situations, to free themselves from violence, but felt trapped because they couldn't go out and work because their paycheck would never cover childcare for their children. And that's a problem. And in Arizona, as we see rising rents, we see more challenges for families, for women, for girls to be able to make it. I think it's really important that we understand that the economics of this is easily the most important way that we can make women and girls safer, is if we acknowledge that the wage gap has real consequences, that the lack of childcare has real consequences. And I hope that we can rise to the challenge. And in my role moving forward, as I have for the last 8 years, you know, those are issues that are near and dear to my heart, and that I'm committed to trying to continue to bring solutions to.
Amazing women. These leaders are examples of the kind of commitment that makes a tremendous impact on the women, girls, and families we serve. It's awe-inspiring to have representation from Arizona at the federal level. As we continue to tackle systemic inequities and advance solutions that create economic opportunity for women and girls, we need supporters like you to join us in elevating women's voices for policy change. Today, you can make a difference by making an investment in WFSA. Simply use the donate button at the bottom of your screens to select an amount and follow the on-screen prompts to make your gift today. Every dollar donated helps us ensure that the voices of women and girls are amplified to support equitable access throughout Arizona. As part of our work, we partner with nonprofit organizations who influence change for women and girls. We'd like to take a few minutes in today's program to highlight a few of our grantee partners who we are proud to fund.
I'm Lee Crosby, and I am a dedicated volunteer with Southern Arizona Senior Pride. It's a growing organization that reaches out to elderly people within the Tucson community and surrounding counties. I want to tell you about one of our most important projects. It's called the Community Cares Project. We call on recipients within their home or nursing homes or senior living facilities who belong to the LGBTQ community. We try to enfold them into the community that they can no longer go out and join because they're homebound. The Community Cares Program has the focus of interrupting isolation, loneliness, building a new friendship. It's incredibly special to all of us, all the joy that we get from our visits. With the Alliance Fund, we have been able to spread a great deal of help throughout the Tucson area. Thank you very much.
At Integrative Touch, we transform the way kids and families experience healthcare. Our impact is measured by the depth of the relationships we create and by the love felt by those we support. And we serve the whole child, the whole family, and the whole community. Meet Omar, a boy who has so many medical challenges, doctors describe him as a walking miracle. Over the past 7 years, we've relieved his pain and reduced his suffering with integrative therapies through our in- and outpatient programs. With our In Touch Tell a Friend program, we provided 2 supportive peers so Omar could simply enjoy his childhood. Meet Vanessa, Omar's mom, who has given her whole life to helping keep Omar alive, in addition to the needs of her other kids. To care for her, we've supported her during hospital visits, and now we've enrolled her in our In Touch Telewellness program. We've also enrolled Omar's nurses and doctors, giving them all tools to decrease anxiety, pain, and burnout, so they could help themselves and others. Integrative Touch has provided more than 4,500 hours of telehealth services in 2021, in part because of your support. We thank you for helping Omar, his family, and so many more through the important work of Integrative Touch.
Amplify Voices helps survivors of sexual assault and trafficking discover their voice and develop a message focused on the triumph they discovered. Amplify also provides a platform to deliver those messages to a wider audience that inspires, uplifts, and brings about more understanding and compassion. Here is the impact of using your voice as an instrument of change.
Even in the hardest times in our life, even in the most tragic things that happen to us, there is a message of hope and that there's a lightness inside of our darkness. So I'm so grateful to this program and to each and every one of the women who are a part of it.
It is so empowering. It is the most freeing thing that I've ever experienced.
There's something about when women come together and we stand up for something that we all have this strong belief for. We are powerful.
As we approach the end of day 2, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank our entire list of sponsors for this year's event. Thank you to presenting sponsor, Tucson Electric Power, and gold sponsors, Cox Communications, Southwest Airlines, and Tucson Local Media. Desert Diamond Casinos, Pima Dermatology, and TMC Healthcare, thank you for serving as our silver sponsors. Finally, thank you to our bronze level sponsors. And now, the raffle for the WFSA swag giveaway. The winner is Kim McWaters. Congratulations, Kim. Thank you so much for joining us today. Join us again tomorrow for our final day of our 3-day virtual luncheon, where we will be focusing on community impact. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you for attending Day 2 of the Women's Foundation for the State of Arizona's virtual luncheon. Our program has concluded. Remember, you can make a gift by clicking the Donate Now button. You also can learn more about WFSA at womengiving.org.